Welcome to Callie's Art Tips and Tricks. This video series is going to be on oil pastels. I'm going to go over three techniques. One is blending, another is water effects, and the third is adding details. So before I begin, let's go over the type of oil pastels I use, best brands to buy, and paper to use. So let me begin. So what I use for oil pastels is Art 101, and if you watch my paint series, I also use Art 101 watercolor paint. These came in an art kit that I bought that came with oil pastels, acrylic and watercolor paint, and paint brushes and stuff like that, colored pencils. So that's why I have these, but these are a very cheap brand. They're not the best. So I looked it up and I found that whole bean oil pastels, Sennelier oil pastels, and Crème d'Achi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those right, but those are the best brands to buy for you to buy oil pastels, and you can look those up too. But definitely don't get Art 101. I'm going to be honest with you, I definitely do not like using oil pastels. I've only used them a few times, but I know enough to give this tutorial. So the reason why I don't like them is because they're like crayons, but they're thicker and heavier, and they're just so hard to blend and add detail to. You really have to know your techniques to be able to use these properly. So I try and stay away from these as much as possible, but I have used them a few times. So let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is blending. So for blending, the first thing you want to do is lay down your local color, and if you've seen my other videos, I've gone over local color a lot, and I'll explain it again just in case you haven't seen them. It's basically your base color. So for example, just say I was doing grass, I'd use a light green as my base color, and then I would go over it with darker greens or stuff like that, okay? So blending, so first thing you want to do is add down your first layer. So I'm going to use this as my local color. So up here, you see that? Up here, I'm just going to do a layer of this. So you want to start off light and go dark. Always start light because you can't, it's really hard to go over dark with light. So start light. And then I'd just say I want to blend it with this darker blue. I'm just going to go like that. So always add all the layers, all the color layers that you need before you blend, because once you blend, it's going to be really hard to get any other color in there. They don't blend well. You're going to end up pulling the color, the top layer off the color you've already blended. So you can use your finger, but it's not really fun. It doesn't blend it very well. So I have these very old and messed up blending stumps. These are super thin ones. Usually they're for finer details. And I had a really thick one, but I can't find it. So I'm just going to have to stick with these. I'm sorry about that. But these work too. So they're basically just made out of paper, and you can use them for a lot of things like charcoal, graphite pencils, pastels, and they're just an alternative to using your fingers because sometimes your fingers can get sore from rubbing. I know that from experience, and sometimes it just blends better than your fingers do. So I'm going to go ahead and blend these, and I'm just rubbing them in. So those are my layers blended right there, and you can tell, I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see it better, but you can tell that they just don't blend very well. They're like crayons, but worse. They're even worse than crayons, I think. And it might just be my pastels. I mean, I haven't really tried the more expensive ones. Maybe if I got those, it'll be more worth it to do oil pastel drawings, but I prefer using other art mediums better, so I just kind of stick with those. But maybe someday I'll get the more expensive kind and see how those work out. But whatever works for you. I mean, oil pastels might be your favorite medium. I don't want to like cause you not to like them, but that's just my preference. Oh, there's that. The next technique I can't show you, and I'm really sorry about that, but I'll explain it to you completely. So basically, the second technique is water effects. So I have written down, use water-soluble oil pastels. You loosely apply oil pastels. So draw really light, and then use a paintbrush dipped in water and paint over the pastels, which creates a watercolor effect. So the reason why I can't show you is my pastels are unfortunately cheap and are not water soluble, so I cannot show you the watercolor effect. But I've seen it. You can look it up. It's pretty cool. It's just, and it seems like it'd be easier to blend. So basically, you just do your layer, do it light, don't do too dark and heavy. And then just like you're using watercolors, and you can watch my watercolor series to get a better understanding of watercolors. But basically, you just paint over the pastels, and it creates kind of like a watercolor effect. So that's pretty cool. And I'm sorry again that I can't show you that. The final technique is adding details using oil pastels. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to use the blending technique first. So you have this, and then you start adding in details over it. So I'm going to grab another color. Just do red, for example. That's not really good. But, I mean, it's not very good, but you can kind of see, you can start adding in details over that. And then details you're not really going to be able to blend in well, so that's why you want to make sure you get all your blending done first, and then you add your details over that. That's super important to remember, because you're really going to mess it up if you don't. So before I end this video, I just want to show you an oil painting that I've completed, or an oil pastel picture that I've completed. I did this a couple months ago, and it's okay, I guess. The only thing I really wasn't too happy with was the pineapple. As you can see, it's really dirty looking and just kind of looks bad in general. And I think that's because I didn't make sure I blended before I tried to add other details. I didn't do light over dark. I didn't do dark over light. I was trying to do light over dark, and that's where I went wrong. So this piece could have been a lot better if I just realized the techniques that I should have done, but it is what it is, so I'm going to try and do better. And thank you for watching this video, and be sure to tune in to my oil pastel tutorial video.